Welcome back to the Vanessa G Fitcast. I'm Vanessa Pozos, and today I am super excited to have on another incredible guest. So I am excited to introduce you all to one of our really amazing Vital Spark functional health practitioner coaches. This is Elizabeth McMillin. I've been waiting to get her on the podcast. She joined our team back at the very end of 2024, really got started with us kind of new year 2025. And she is not just extremely knowledgeable in functional health and just incredible with labs, incredible with really root cause healing work, but she is really tremendously empathetic and relatable as a coach just from her own lived experience. Elizabeth's story is one that I know a lot of you are going to resonate with from a lot of the struggles that she has been through with her gut, with inflammation, with a lot of the things that she's worked through in her life, even now as a mom of two, as a special forces wife, a lot of really incredible things here. So, Elizabeth, welcome to the Vanessa G Fitcast.
Oh my gosh, that introduction was incredible. Thank you so much. I'm all blushing over here already.
Well, I've had some time to sit on how I wanted to introduce you because we've been talking about getting this podcast scheduled for a while, but both you and I are, um, you know, we could say that we're a little bit of workaholics and we both tend to overload our schedules, and so trying to go back and forth to find a time can take a little bit of while. But
Yeah.
um, so I am really excited to pick your brain on not just your knowledge but your personal story. So I think it'd be a great place to start. So you, Elizabeth, you've shared with me before how as a little girl you grew up with an Italian family, and at the same time you were dealing with a lot of gut discomfort, a lot of bloating, and that was tough. So let's start there. Paint that picture for me of what those kind of early gut struggles were like for you.
Yeah. I mean, if anyone's been like in an Italian family or some cultural, family, you just like food is like our world, right? And so I never thought that eating all this pasta or dairy or whatever was causing my inflammation. And like, my cousins, we would all like clean the dishes afterwards because everyone does their part. And I would always have to go to the bathroom. And they thought that I was literally making an excuse that I just wanted to get out of dishes. I never knew it, but they would later in years, they're like, "Oh, we thought you just always like were trying to ditch out of like, doing dishes or getting, having to do work." And I was really just constantly in so much pain. But I never really knew it because you only know what you know. And so it was like, "Oh, everyone feels this way, right? Like everyone feels this way um after they eat or certain foods." And so that was really just kind of like the backstory on like my symptoms. But is there like something specifically you want to know more about?
Yeah, well, talk us through kind of what that was like then growing up as I know you, in your teenage years, you were more of an athlete. And of course, then it led into a little bit of like the awareness of your body and kind of like the cycle then of not just now the stomach pains and, the gut pains, but actually wanting to feel leaner and look leaner and, a lot of like the psychological aspects of this too. So walk us through that because I know a lot of women can relate to these aspects of your story for sure.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, so like as one of my clients actually said, 90s baby, whereas like well, I wasn't a 90s baby, I was born in like the 80s or late 80s, but it's like, we grew up in that mentality that like eat less, work out more, you need to be thin, like all those things, right? So as I discovered, I actually what happened was I started, I think, cutting out food as a way to probably lean out. And then I noticed that like my gut felt better and I was feeling so much better. So I just kept cutting out food, but I didn't know what I was doing. So it was like 15 years old and I'm cutting out food after food. I'm cutting out breads, I'm cutting out pasta, I'm cutting out carbs. Like, this feels so good. I'm just going to keep cutting out things. Well, then it like spiraled to the like, okay, now I'm going to cut out everything because everything causes me pain. And then it became like an eating disorder where I'm like, okay, now I'm like barely eating anything. I was a cheerleader and we were competitive cheerleaders. So like we were running constantly, we were running miles and miles every day. And then we were doing like stunting and really aggressive like competitions. So I just started dropping all this weight because my inflammation was down. And then what happened was I like basically became malnourished because I'd cut out so many foods. My weight had dropped so much. And then my brain wasn't functioning right because I was no longer getting basically any nutrients because I didn't want, my thought was, well, I don't want to be in pain. So I'm going to cut all these things out. And I had no guidance. And so I ended up just having to like go into like treatment for like mental health and all those things just because it was such like a spiral. And then it wasn't until like they helped me kind of clean up my diet with like anti-inflammatory. I was able to, I mean, as you know, I was able to boost my metabolism to over 3,000 calories now. So it really was just like certain things inflaming me, but it was that every girl is like felt like, oh, I'm getting leaner. This is working, right? But it was like it to my point, I have such a fast metabolism that I became so thin and malnourished so quickly that it
Mm.
kind of was like worked on my favor because it pushed me to be into like get help and figure things out sooner versus women who do it for years and years and years and it destroys their body.
Totally. Yeah. So you mentioned the inflammation piece. Tell us about that a little bit there, because I know there's probably some women that are like, wait a second, like, what does that mean? You were eating anti-inflammatory.
Yeah, it's such a, I mean, that's okay. So this is where like in my world, it's just like, it's just like talking about like H. pylori, right? People are like, what? It's just like, oh yeah, inflammation. Such a great question. So like our body can be everyone's different. So our body becomes really inflamed from a number of things. And sometimes that can be food, that can be stress, it can be exercise, right? So I had a lot of that going on. And
Mhm.
so the inflammation really was different foods in like my gut was just being inflamed. But why was my gut inflamed? Okay, well, I was going through hormonal things. I was getting my period. My body's trying to figure out what to do with hormones. And anytime there's a hormonal shift, your gut microbiome gets shifted as well. So now I'm having this inflammation because I'm filtering hormones. My gut's not in a very good place. So the inflammation there was really coming from such a number of factors. But what that shows up as is like bloating, puffiness, swellingness. I remember my college roommates were like, do you just maybe eat a lot of sodium? Because I would be so puffy, and we're like trying to figure out what it was that was causing this inflammation.
Mhm. I think you had mentioned to me before that you would even get described as being big boned when you were younger as well. And I imagine that that probably felt, like kind of brought up some insecurities too. So here you were just backing it up, kind of giving everybody the full picture from early young girl age, feeling like it's normal to have all these gut pains and bloating and discomfort, running to the bathroom, into teenage years being, told that you're just big bones and being asked of like, do you just like eat a ton of sodium? Why are you really puffy? And feeling like you're just having this unhealthy relationship with food there for a while. And now we get to where you are today. And I think I wanted to start there with kind of that backstory and that beginning, because I think a lot of women would meet you today, and especially women who, reach out to Vital Spark and are like, I'm struggling with all these things. They would see today, Elizabeth, of so energetic, like, beautiful, lean body, like it just does so much, so athletic. And they were probably like, oh, you can't relate to me. You can't relate to how I feel. You eat so well. You just do it all. Like, you don't understand. You don't understand how I feel, Elizabeth. And I think it's so important for everyone to really get that backstory to see how you've gone through it all on the health side. But also, and what I would love to get into, start picking your brain on a little bit, is a lot of the stressors that you have underwent throughout your adult life and being a military spouse. So let's dive into that a little bit there. Um, what has that been like of, now getting into adult years and working through your gut health? You became entrepreneur, you special forces wife, like so many things happening. What
Oh
was
my
that
gosh,
like?
what do we have time for, Vanessa? Like there's so much. And I love how you said that people might look at me and think I can't relate. And that's so far from the truth. But like you're right, because they don't see the years and years that I put in because there's a lot more, pieces to it. Like I've figured out how to regulate metabolism. I figured out how to lower inflammation. I figured out like how to pull myself out of fight or flight. And I think that kind of feeds into what you're asking here. And there's actually two stories I wanted to bring up. One was I used to run very, very far. And I very much had that cortisol belly. And the reason for that is because when I would run, I'd run long, long distances. And I still love doing that, but I don't get to do it as often. But I wouldn't eat right after. And so my body would go into this protective measure, right? So like, okay, we can't trust Elizabeth to feed us after my blood sugar's dropping, my cortisol's rising, and it would start to store belly fat around my belly, right? Fat around my belly. And I even was asked by someone once, like, you work out a lot. Like, I'm so surprised your belly's not more toned. And now, hindsight, I'm like, because I used to think the same. Well, maybe I'm just not working out enough, like 2 hours a day, or whatever, like it
Mhm.
was. And running so much and then I realized, well, no, it was cortisol. Like it was totally cortisol just protecting me, right? It was like, okay, well, if you're going to do this to us, we're going to try to protect you. So then that feeds into another piece of being a military spouse and a business owner because that elevated my stress as well. And so I kind of love this story, and I'm going to tell this and then I'm going to backtrack a little, just because I'm on the lines of cortisol. So my now husband, during our first deployment together, I was doing my pre-med courses. I was working at a doctor's office. And then I was also tutoring full time. And then working at a restaurant on the weekends. It was wild. But I was under so much cortisol stress, right? That I just kept thinking, when he gets home, it's going to be okay. When he gets home, it's going to be okay. He came home, and again, I'm that runner. I had that belly punch, right? He came home, and my stress dropped so much. I lost all my belly fat, literally just from that change. Just from that change, from him coming home and my stress, my body feeling safe again, pulling it out of fight or flight, knowing how to calm myself. Like he would help, like, I don't know, he was just a calming person. So I love that story because I think it's really impactful of like how much your mental health and your stress can really impacts your physique as well. So then diving into life as a business owner and military spouse and all that, I'll keep all that kind of brief because I know I don't want to waste all your time, but I have a really interesting story on that I don't really get to. And now that he's 20 years retired, I didn't really get to share this. I had to very much fly under the radar. Like I wasn't allowed to post things on social media. I wasn't allowed to talk about things. I couldn't I couldn't talk to things to anyone. Maybe my mom if I turned off my phone. It was very much that wartime we were in when he was doing his combat deployments. And I remember 2013, he was about to go on his a deployment, and I got pulled into like an office with a couple of their spouses. We weren't married at the time, and they sat us down and they said, "You realize that you cannot post anything. There are people in this country looking for you. There are people strategically over here looking for you because they know what your husband's doing overseas, and they're looking for you because they know
Wow.
if they find you, then it's going to throw his mission off overseas." And so they were like, you have to fly under the radar. You cannot post, like people cannot know you, basically your husband exists. And I just remember being like, wow, here, like we had just started dating too. And I was like, okay, I'm in for it. I'm here. I'm going to do it. And like, we lived in this little town where like, and he actually taught me how to know if someone was following me. Like it was just a weird time. And that's kind of an interesting story. I never really got to tell anyone because I couldn't tell anyone, but that,
And well, now I'm getting to tell everybody on the podcast
yeah,
because this is some good stuff. I have not heard that story before, and that is wild. But I can imagine that would like make a lot of sense during that time period, especially.
yeah, yeah. Cause they knew family was the thing that would get to them.
Mhm.
But yeah, so that was really interesting. And then, just so then the next how many years until this year when he retired, was a lot like that. And I really found peace and comfort in working, because I guess it distracted me from that he was gone. So I had started my business and then I was always, pre-med, trying to do the PA thing, and then found functional medicine, and here we are. And I had the greatest opportunity arise to work for Vital Spark, and it's just been amazing ever since.
And we have been so grateful to have you on board. I want to circle back on what you had started to talk about there. So you had started your own business because this was a time period where you would ultimately kind of come to that realization of gluten was a big problem for you. You had realized, a lot of different ingredients were really not working well with your body. And so you kind of turned your pain into purpose there. You went as far as to create your own products because a fun fact about you for everybody as well is Elizabeth is a little bit of like a genius when it comes to food science as well. So talk to us about like the creation of HIIT Dough and how you went about that and kind of the story and how that reflects even your approach to food now.
Yeah, I'm so thankful for you keeping this organized. So I feel like I have so many tabs open that I could talk about so many things. But yeah, so actually the story was I was on that gut healing path. Um, really trying to figure out what causes inflammation within me, but then also not compromising my calories. So building my calories up, keeping inflammation down. And he had proposed, and 5 days later we moved to the East Coast, and I was like, okay, what do I do? I know science and education, and I know like working, right? So I did both those things, and I had signed up briefly for like a master's program in like basically bioengineering, metabolism, human metabolism. And so I was in the course of like learning about all what different things, micronutrients, vitamins, minerals fuel the body. And um, my husband comes to me and he's like, "Hey, I have like a 50-pound ruck, which is like it's where they wear 50 pounds and they like ruck. It's a very fast paced thing. They had a training thing." And he's like, "What should I eat before?" And I'm like, oh, naming off these things. I'm like, hold on, I'll make it for you. So I made him a bar because I thought, okay, a bar is the easiest thing for him to put in his bag. And so I made him a bar and he took it to work and all of his buddies started stealing his bar. So I started making more and he's like, I literally haven't been able to eat one because I put it on my desk and someone comes in and takes it. So I'm like, I created something called hip bars. And what it was is it was a like non-inflammatory protein. So I used actually like a brown rice protein because for me personally, pea protein, whey protein, they all kind of caused inflammation. Um, and then I kept it gluten free, soy free, dairy free, and low glycemic because at the time I had like weird circle of people who were diabetics and they're like, can you create us something that we can eat? So I kept it low glycemic. I kept it like, sweetened with dates and the lowest glycemic sweeteners. Um, and then I was home visiting my parents and I'm like, you got to try these bars. My dad was obsessed. He still thinks I make hit bars. It's been like, I don't know, 8 years. And so I was working on a recipe because my mom's like, you need a chocolate flavors. I'm not a chocolate girl. So I was like, okay, let's make one out of her little like home mixer. And I messed up an ingredient. I like wasn't focusing. I poured way too much of an ingredient and it turned out like a dough, like a paste. I'm all frustrated. I leave the room. My sister-in-law's in town, and my brother. And I come back in the room, like calm myself down. I come back in the room, like, gosh, I just wasted all these ingredients and time. And I'm meticulously like little science major measuring everything. And my mom and my sister-in-law are literally they're like, can we eat this? And I was like, sure, go ahead. They're sticking their fingers in this thing, just like, this is the greatest thing I've ever tasted, Elizabeth. And I'm like, wait a second. And my entrepreneurial brain was like, there's nothing out there like this. There's no edible cookie dough that's low glycemic, dairy free, gluten free. Because all the other ones that were vegan and gluten free, they had like massive amounts of sugar and like no protein and still inflammatory things in it. So I went, what do I have to lose? I'm out here in North Carolina. I transferred everything. I turned all my recipes into dough instead of bars. Sent it to a couple influencers and it just like blew up.
And that became a huge part of your life for a while. And then, we get into motherhood. So you're a boy mom of two, both very little ones as well. And so it's been a lot over the years of managing deployments. I know we could even get into really tough pregnancies as well. Um, Talk to us a little bit more about because I feel like you can just give us the full stories as much as you want to share. I'm not worried about time here, Elizabeth, but I feel like you have so many impactful stories to tell, not only just to help us understand who is Elizabeth, what is your backstory, but for others to even understand a little bit more of your coaching style, where kind of your resiliency comes from, where your understanding, like your personal relationship of understanding, the gut stress connection comes from. Tell us a little bit more of like, that progression then from HIIT Dough really taking off to really getting to where you are today now with coaching.
Yeah, it's such like a serendipitous thing, actually. So HIIT Dough took off. COVID hit. It was booming. E-commerce was amazing during COVID. I got pregnant, and we had been trying for a while. So a lot of people don't know that I had infertility, but it was interesting because we weren't sure if it was infertility or the fact that I saw my husband only a few days out of the month. So it was kind of like, so I did the fertility drugs. It was knocked me just like I hypersensitive. And that's another thing I can really actually relate to on people. I'm hypersensitive to a lot. So those fertility drugs were just, it was a no-go for me. I was like, well, it's just not going to happen if this is what I have to do. But I ended up getting pregnant during COVID. Well, actually funny story. So it takes 90 days for your follicles to develop. So, um, actually this is my second pregnancy. When my husband got home, I got pregnant 90 days later because it takes follicles. Anyways, well, we got pregnant during COVID. He was actually supposed to leave for a 3-month training trip. And I got pregnant like while he was supposed to be gone, but it got put on hold or canceled. And then COVID was going off, and then business was going off. And then I had this horrible pregnancy. And also what people didn't know is my husband was about to deploy again right when I had the baby. And so I got to the point where business was so crazy I couldn't handle it anymore. We were doing things out of commercial kitchen. Um, and we needed to move to a co-packer, but we weren't big enough to move to a co-packer that I could find, because everyone was like, we want hundreds of thousands of units ordered. And I'm like, that's great, but mine shelf life, like we make everything fresh. We make it fresh, we ship it. We make it fresh, we ship it, right? Like it was very much a no preservative product. It was very fresh. And I didn't have a way of sealing it to make it last even longer. So it was kind of all of a sudden. And then, so I pulled back a little bit on production. We like just letting people know there are longer turnarounds. I pulled down my ads so I wasn't selling as much so I can make up for it. Then baby comes, deployment happens, and like my employees were great. They took over, they helped a ton. But it just became a lot to juggle with like being a single mom, running an exploding business, managing employees, trying to do it all. And I maintained it for quite a while. And then my second pregnancy is when I kind of just said, um, I don't think I want to do this anymore. Like, this is not worth it. I mean, you think I work a lot now, like it was constant, and I was dragging my baby to the commercial kitchen. I was feeding him in my car. Like it was just like so constant. I felt like I wasn't even showing up as a mom. I was only showing up for this business. And there was such a big part of me that was missing because I wanted to be a mom, and I was a full-time mom. I was essentially a single mom, right? Um, and so I kind of pulled back on the business, and my husband and I had this long conversation. We were like, this is really demanding, and it's taking a lot out of me. It's taking me away from him. It's taking me away from my kids. So I pulled back, and that's when I leaned more into the functional medicine, and found MMU, and was doing, sign up for all 3 levels because I felt like it was my calling. And the reason I say it was serendipitous is because it was a um, customer who was also an influencer that reached out to me about HIIT Dough. I was like, hey, I want to try your product. I was like, she's big. And I'm like, you got it. How much do you want? I'll send it to you. we became friends and started chatting. And then after I became a mom, I said, I kind of want to like do mom coaching, but is that like a thing? Like, what do I do? Like, how do I be a mom coach? Because I feel like so many moms aren't seen, right? Like they're underappreciated, they're overworked. They're not seen in all the things they do. Like to give a mom just space to be able to like, it's okay to take 5 minutes for you, you know? Because that was something I had to learn. I going backtrack a little bit, but I hit rock bottom. I was like fainting. My mom had to drive down and come get me and the baby because I was so overworked and overtired from being a single parent that I like was fainting. And the thing was, it was a wake up call. I had to then seek help. I had to get someone to come over and help me with this kid. Like I just had to hire a mother's helper. And I felt like it was such guilt I felt in doing that. But then I had a mom friend tell me, it's okay, Elizabeth. Like you're going to show up as a better mom if you get space, right? If you have someone to help you, you look forward to that day, that even if it's once a week, you look forward to that day. And then you refill your cup and you can come back a better mom and a better business owner and a better supportive wife, because it's going to trickle onto him. And I was like, okay, she's right. She's right. And so I wanted to give that to other moms. So I hit up this girl and I'm like, what do you think? And she goes, MMU. MMU, because you're science, you're like functional, you're very like knowledgeable about these things. So I look into it and I hop on a call with their intake person and I'm like, yep, sold that day. This is exactly where I need. And I honestly truly believe I created HIIT Dough to get me to this point today, sitting next to you having this conversation, because if I hadn't created HIIT Dough, I wouldn't have met her. She wouldn't have recommended MMU, and then I wouldn't be
Yeah.
here.
Yeah, because so for those who don't know, so MMU is one of our really, I would say, our preferred kind of continued education platform for functional health. It's been a tremendous space for us to really make sure that our coaches are getting the top, just absolute best of the industry education in functional health, and that's where we've been able to connect with incredible coaches like Elizabeth, who we always joke that you are really between you and other coaches who have come on the team where it had been kind of on that pre-med track and then ultimately decided, what, I can have a bigger impact with functional health. Like we have the greatest doctor on the team just without the doctorate in it, because the knowledge truly that for everybody listening to this, the knowledge that Elizabeth brings to this team, the how in depth she goes with cases, and Elizabeth supports a lot of our other coaches on these highest level cases, and she pours her heart and soul into it, and it is incredible the work that we are doing, the difference we are making in these clients' lives. I would love to even get into that a little bit with you, Elizabeth. I know between the cases that you have worked on directly or you've supported on, there have been some incredible life-changing things happening, even just since you joined Vital Spark at the beginning of 2025. Um, so I would love for you to maybe even share a little bit of an impactful client case for you. Like maybe a client story that stands out where they were struggling with things that maybe are relatable to some of the people that are listening to this too.
Yeah. And Vanessa, one of the greatest opportunities I've had with working with Vital Spark is um, that, and I feel like I'm just plugging, just plugging, but it's truly like, honestly, this is genuinely how I feel, is the amount of people we're able to help, the amount of people that can actually connect with you, right? So they're connecting with you. And then I have the honor of helping as well on the side of the practitioner side. And it's just incredible, like these amount of people. And when you ask that question, gosh, there's like so many people that come to mind. There's just too many to even count. But there's one specifically that I just got chills thinking about her. So we on our intake call, I'll never forget. She was like, "Look, I was a part of a research study at a California university where it was a weight loss research study, and Elizabeth, I lost 0 pounds, zero." Um, and she's like, "I have been dealing with this for 10 years. She had a lot of, she had trauma, she had autoimmune going on, and not diagnosable disease yet, but in my eyes, autoimmune based on her labs that we ran. And just so many layers, right? And I remember she was so nervous because it was like, why am I even trying this? It's just one more thing I'm going to try that's not going to work, right? She had felt so hopeless and helpless. And I'll never forget our intake call. I was just listening to her story and I just said, I'm so happy you're here and I hope you can trust me. And she did. And she trusted me. And it was like, my gosh, like the amount that how committed she was incredible. And so there's two parts to this, right? There's the commitment, there's the trust, but then I guess there's three parts. But then there's the mindset because she was the type that was like, I am so ready to heal. I'm so open to heal. I am so grateful for this protocol that you're going to give me. I am so grateful for like how much you're pouring into my case, how much you're doing to support me, how customized you are to like what we have. And we had our GI map and we saw a ton of red flags. And so we just started layer by layer. I mean, I put her through some pretty tough stuff and she was ready for it. And the thing was, her mindset was ready for it. She was so willing to do whatever because she was so in pain. And I don't remember if it was 10 or 15 pounds, but she goes, one check-in one day, she goes, I know we're not in a weight loss phase, but I have to tell you, I'm down 10, I think it was 10 or 15 pounds. And
I
I'm
think it
like,
was 15 if I remember correctly.
yeah, I was like,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, are you kidding me? Like, you didn't tell me this the whole time, weight's just plowing off, right? And that had been, Vanessa, that was probably maybe 2.5 months after
Mhm.
10 years, right? And so we worked like pulling herself out of feeling her identity that she was a bigger girl. She was her autoimmune. But she put in the work to that, right? Like I gave her the tools. I was like, hey, we need to focus on this. This is what we really need to focus on right now. We need to pull your body out of fight or flight, and we need to reframe your identity that you are your autoimmune, that you are your trauma, because she had some really serious trauma. So we worked on that, and then we pulled inflammation out with one of our protocols, moved into a gut protocol. It was like, it was just so magical to see. And then I remember towards, I think it was probably three months in, she goes to Hawaii and she's like, I actually just enjoyed the trip. I wore a bathing suit and I got to eat what I wanted to eat. And, I still was like, I want to keep it low inflammatory because I feel better that way. So, and that was another huge win, just knowing a girl went to Hawaii, right? And wore her bathing suit and had the best time. So that's probably,
Yeah,
one.
well, I remember, I mean, exactly the case that you're talking about, and I remember some things that she had said in the beginning. When she had first reached out, and like you mentioned, of having gone through, I mean, drastic diets without working, even a weight loss study, and she was, her significant other wasn't, or was, I think, doing some of the same things, and just weight was falling off him easily. And here's this girl is just had so many reasons that she could have just given up on herself, so many valid reasons to just be like, it's just not meant to be. I'm just never gonna lose weight, never gonna feel better. And she was dealing with some pretty rough things. I think, even if I remember correctly, like, um, yeah, her GI issues were so bad that at one point she was just having like accidents, like really
Mhm.
like
Mhm.
hard things to deal with as a woman. That it's like, I hope to anybody who's listening, of like, if that's you, if you're dealing with these things, you are not alone. And these things can feel so shameful to share with other people, of like, I can't lose weight. I'm having really bad GI issues. I don't feel good. Like, this is hard stuff to reach out and ask for help on, because at times it can almost feel shameful. And yet she didn't let any of that stop her. She didn't let the fact that, she had found me on Instagram. That was something I remember her saying, reflecting back, of like, man, I was a little nervous because like I just found you on Instagram and was just kind of like threw a Hail Mary here of like, let's see if this is as good as it looks and what it's made up to be. Like, even though she was definitely a little skeptical, but she went all in on it. And she's just one of the many, many examples of clients that are having these kinds of life-changing, um, truly life-changing, being able to, go on vacations and navigate their day-to-day life without these kinds of stressors and concerns about how they feel in their body and how their body's going to respond to things. These are the things that are happening, you guys, because of our amazing coaching team, and Elizabeth especially, like having these kinds of impacts. I mean, Elizabeth, I know you've talked about here a little bit already too, of you've just, I can tell you're so passionate about your work. We talk about it all the time of you are truly a Vital Spark cheerleader. And I know you were drawn to this team because you felt really called to our mission. You felt like our approach is different from what's out there. And it was something you really wanted to be a part of. Can you speak to that a little bit of what really kind of drew you to Vital Spark on that level?
Yeah. So there were like job postings that had kind of come through. And I mean, I was fresh with a baby. I was like, first of all, I don't really need to like have a job right now because I had fresh with a baby. And I'm not sure anyone's gonna really want to hire me, you know? And like Vanessa, you just like accepted me as I was, and you were like, I think okay, so let me back up. So there were job postings coming up, right? And I was like, I don't know if I'm really going to apply. And there was one I kind of wanted to work with. There was like a lower cost functional medicine thing. And then this popped up. And for some reason, I remember saying to James, should I apply? I don't know why. I'm just getting this like feeling that I should apply this. And he's like, do it. What do you have to lose? Right. So I apply and then I meet you and I'm just like, okay, this is something feels really right here, really right. And then I found out you had like a ton of applicants and I was like, there's no way I'm going to get this. There's just no way. Like, and so as I like go through the interview process and I meet you and I find your mission and I hear what you're saying and it was like empowered women, empowering women is basically like one of your mantras. And I was just like, oh, so the next generation doesn't have to helping women so the next generation doesn't have to suffer. Those I butchered those words. But I could not relate more to that because like you were saying, like people feel very lonely in these symptoms. I felt very lonely in my symptoms. I didn't think anyone could ever relate to the gut issues I was having, right? And how many clients have come through? I'm like, yeah, no, I've been there. Yeah, I've been there. And so I think that like your mission that you've built around this with like limitless growth, authentic connection, just really empowering women. And I think our t-shirt even says empower women, empower women, right? Like,
Mhm.
and I just felt such a connection to that. And especially with you, you have such an authentic relatableness to you as well. Um, that there was just something inside me that just knew that this was like such a great place to be. And like, yeah, I cannot speak. And also for anyone listening, the other coaches on this team are absolutely incredible. We say that Vanessa's superpower is finding the most incredible women and coaches. And so I cannot like tell you I've ever been able to be with this many women and be so happy in life. There's usually of some sort, right? But we're like Vanessa truly has a superpower of not only connecting with everyone listening, but also finding people who have different special talents. And that's why I think another thing that makes Vital Spark so amazing is our team, right? Like we have someone that really can help just about anyone.
Yeah, absolutely. I say it all the time, but I mean it to my core. Like we have the most incredible team. Like I truly think of it as like we have the Avengers of coaching of just like such a powerhouse group of women. Um, and I think what a lot of it comes down to is I think when women are really passionate about a mission, when they really are doing it from a place of purpose, like nobody gets into online coaching because they're like, how can you know, I want to just like make good money. I just want to like have a, easy job. Like no one's just like, yeah, this is like what I want to get into. No, we get into this because we want to have impact. We want to help people. And the reality is, I truly think when we can come from this place of just being genuine and authentic of like, hey, I've struggled with this. And so I don't want other people to have to struggle with this. And I've worked through these issues. And because I figured it out, I want to help other people figure it out too. We become a magnet for each other, meaning like this coaching team, I think you guys all say that it's my superpower of recruiting and hiring. And I guess we could say that it's true because of the evidence of this team. But I really do think that we can be magnets to each other. Like you see through women between um, those who are maybe say that they want to help people, but like they don't really actually care. It's not really deep to their core the way it is for women like you and I and every coach on this team. But and we could definitely go way down that rabbit hole. But Elizabeth, to kind of wrap us up here, I would love if For the women who are listening, who probably see themselves in your story. They maybe right now are struggling with things that you struggled with throughout different parts of your journey. Maybe they are dealing with the GI issues, the bloating, the gut pains. Maybe they have been kind of labeled as big boned their whole life. Maybe they have kind of like this belly they can't get rid of, even though they exercise a ton. Maybe they run themselves literally into the ground. Maybe they're doing all the things as moms and business owners and all of it. Like, what do you want her to know from your story? What do you want her to know that's possible? What do you want her to take away from this episode?
Oh, it's such a deep question, right? Like, first of all, mama or whoever is listening, I see you doing all the things that you're doing, right? Like, I want you to know that someone sees you. Someone knows that you are doing all these things and you're grinding and you're pouring your soul into whether it's your business or your kids or your passions. Um, and it's really okay to take time for you. It really is okay. And the example I love to give is that your body can't heal unless if it feels like it's being chased by a bear, right? So if you feel like you're in that kind of being chased by a bear and you're wondering what's going on and why you're not seeing, an impact or change, it really could be just that your body needs to feel safe. And I don't think like I think a lot of women can really benefit from helping their body feel safe. So I guess I would say to the person out there that, like, I see you, I see everything you're doing. Um, you're not alone. There's so many women who could relate to you. And I hope that Vital Spark finds you and that we can help you.
Absolutely. So good. Well, Elizabeth, thank you so much for sharing your story with us today, for really just, reminding us that healing isn't about restriction, that it's really about nourishing your body. It's about taking care of your body, about taking care of yourself, and learning to support your body so it can feel safe, to let go of inflammation, heal the gut issues and really just start to thrive. And for those who are listening who, you did connect with Elizabeth's story or even just related to, what she was saying there at the end, I do want you to know this. You do not have to stay stuck with the restrict inflame cycle that Elizabeth was stuck in for years. Healing is absolutely possible. Elizabeth is proof of that. And she is proof of that in how many women she is helping here at Vital Spark, how many women that we all are getting to help here at Vital Spark. So if you're wanting to feel like yourself again, if you're wanting to, experience some of the amazing things that Elizabeth is talking about, you want to finally understand your body, you want to have an incredible coach like Elizabeth in your corner, working with you one-on-one, just reach out to us. We would love to support you in that. But Elizabeth, as we close out here, is there, if anybody wants to connect with you, learn from you or, reach out to you, where could they best find you?
On Instagram, my handle is mompreneur. Elizabeth. So I'm at mompreneur.elizabeth. And I love to post in my stories just functional stuff. Sometimes I'll do random trivia. Sometimes I'll do like random lab reviews on there and kind of give some insight. And it's really relatable stuff. I have a lot of people who connect with it. So I would love for you to find me on there.
Yeah, definitely recommend you all give Elizabeth a follow. Awesome. Well, thank you all so much for listening. We'll be back next week with another great episode.